Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Loving obeisances unto the Supreme Being Vasudeva, who is everything there is. Janmadyasya yatho anvayaditaratascha artheshu abhigyaswarat tene brahmahridaya adikavaye muhyanti yatsurayah tejo varimridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha dhamna swena sada nirastakuhakam satyam param dhimahi. We meditate upon the transcendent absolute being from whom springs forth this universe. He is present in all that exists and yet distinct from everything. He is fully conscious and totally independent. He revealed to the first seer Brahma the import of Vedic wisdom. The material creation made of threefold gunas appears in him as though real, like water in a mirage. Being eternally self effulgent, he is ever free of the illusion maya of the material world. We meditate upon him, the Supreme Being. Nigamakalpataror galitam palam shukamukad amrutadrava sanyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. O devotees who relish a taste for divine love, Bhagavatam is the fully ripened fruit of the wish-yielding tree of Vedas, flowing as immortal nectar from Shuka Brahma Rishi. Go on drinking the sweet nectar day after day. So now we enter the 15th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam of the third Skandha. We saw in the last chapter the incident of Diti conceiving two wicked sons as foreseen by sage Kashyapa, but also he gave her the benediction that her grandson will be a great devotee. And with that, the chapter ended. In fact, there is a beautiful verse that summarizes it all, where it said that Diti felt very delighted to hear that her grandson would be a great Bhagavata, and that also her sons would be killed by the Supreme Lord Krishna, because she realized that being killed by the Supreme Lord is no ordinary boon, and therefore that is itself a benediction. And what's more, her grandson is going to be a great devotee. So here, the word used for the grandson, who is Prahalada, is Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam is about anyone devoted to Bhagavan. Therefore, this entire work is Bhagavatam because it's devoted to Bhagavan, but also any pure devotee is a Bhagavata. So here Prahalad is referred to, his name is still not taken, just as the grandson of Diti, and he is referred to as Bhagavata. So it is said, Shutva Bhagavatam Pautram Amodata Ditir Bhrisham Putrayoscha Vadham Krishnat Viditva Asin Mahamanaha. So it says, Shutva Bhagavatam Pautram. Pautram means grandson. Knowing that her grandson is going to be a Bhagavata, and knowing that her sons, Putrayoscha Vadham Krishnat, knowing that her sons will be slain by the Supreme Being Krishna, Diti was happy. So, with that, this chapter ended, and now we see that Maitreya continues with the narration to Vidura that Diti held in her womb the two sons for a long time, far beyond the normal course of pregnancy, because of the potentially the highly wicked nature of the sons and the amount of power that was there in them in a negative way. So this was causing, as it were, a lot of distress among all the devatas, all the elements and their presiding deities, such as Indra and Varuna and Vayu, who are the presiding deities of wind and water and so many other elements. So it is said that these presiding deities, Devas, approached Brahma and prayed to him, saying that, O Brahma, you are the creator of the universe and you know everything that's going on among created beings. You have four faces, knowing all four directions, and you are the cause of the whole universe to be manifested through all the created beings. And therefore, and also they know that Brahma has received the highest teaching directly from the Supreme Being. Therefore, they glorify Brahma by saying that your word, which is the Vedas, is the essence of all wisdom. So, Brahma is Vedas personified. He brought forth Vedas and all the subsidiaries of Vedas, as we saw earlier. So, the Devas glorify Brahma by saying, you are not only the original creator, in that you brought forth all the created beings, you also received the highest wisdom directly from Bhagavan, and you also brought forth all the Vedas, and you are yourself a personification of Vedas. And therefore, please help us here. People have failed to perform their duties because of this darkness that is embracing the whole world. So, what they are saying here is, because of this potential birth of these two wicked sons, there is an energy of darkness spreading all over the universe. And because of that, people have failed to perform their duties. And there is a general sense of great dread and fear already in the air, even before these two wicked sons are born. So we can see the magnitude of the wickedness of these two sons, and therefore they go to Brahma and they pray to him that there is so much darkness already even before they are born, and therefore we are in great affliction. All the beings are in affliction, and this seed that is being placed by Kashyapa, this babies in the womb of Diti, are seeming like fire that is burning all quarters and causing a lot of distress already. So, hearing this, Brahma first of all laughs or smiles, because he knows that he himself is simply an agent. He is nimitta matram, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Everything is done by the Supreme Being, and whether it's Brahma for creation, or whether it's Arjuna in the case of Mahabharat war, are only the instruments, nimitta matram. And therefore Brahma knows, though he is glorified by the Devatas, that he is only an instrument and everything prevails according to the will of the Supreme Being. And therefore he responds to these Devatas by narrating a backstory which they are not aware of. He says that my mind-born son, so Sanaka, we saw the four sons who first Brahma brought forth. They are Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, Sanat Kumar. These four sons, as we saw a couple of chapters back, are young boys who are ever celibate, who were not interested in procreation. Brahma wanted them to continue, but they refused because they are Vasudeva Parayanaha. They are only dedicated to Vasudeva, and they are highly sagely boys, even though they look very young. They don't wear any clothes, and they are fully liberated, like Avadhutas, Paramahamsas, great jnanis, and great devotees. So, referring to them, Brahma says, my four sons, Sanaka and his brothers, who are the eldest among all created beings, they move about, as you know, free from attachment to anyone and anything. And once they entered the realm called Vaikuntha, which is the supreme realm of the Supreme Being, and when they entered Vaikuntha, their mind and body being purely divine, they were able to go there and perceive the beautiful eternal realm of the Supreme Lord. And then the realm of Vaikuntha is described very poetically, that everyone there is in a form that's similar to Narayana himself. Everyone is looking in the exact same form. We saw the form of Narayana described in multiple occasions in the second Skandha, including when Brahma receives the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So that very form is not only that of Narayana, but all the denizens of Vaikuntha. So it is said that this uh, pure realm of Vaikuntha, which is the abode of the most ancient being, the Supreme Being, can only be known through righteousness and through total surrender. And in this realm, everyone is dedicated to him, as it is said. Everyone has the same form of him as him. Everyone is devoted to him. Everyone is serving him. Everything in this realm is completely dedicated. All the flowers, all the trees, all the various beings who can sing well, who can dance well, everything. So it essentially describes how a perfect world can be, which can be manifested in any place where the Lord's glory is completely recognized. So, when every skill, whether it's art or music or whether it's technical skills, ability to build things, architectural skills, when every single skill is dovetailed to the glorification of the Supreme Being who abides in the hearts of all. In other words, when everything is done as a service, when music and art and technology, even and buildings and everything is done only as an offering of service to the Supreme Being who abides in the hearts of all. And that's what is signified by saying that everyone has the same form as the Supreme Being Vasudeva. So when we recognize that everyone and everything here is only the form of Vasudeva, and therefore we engage in every activity as a service to Vasudeva who abides in the hearts of all, then that place becomes Vaikuntha, the realm that is free of suffering. So that's what's beautifully and poetically described here as Vaikuntha, where all the singers are glorifying him, all the dancers are glorifying him, the bees that are on the flowers of the garlands of all the beings are all singing beautifully, and all the birds are singing, glorifying the Supreme Being. The various trees with fragrant flowers like Mandara, Kunda, Parijata, all of them, and so many other Champaka, so many flowers are described. They are all so fragrant, and yet the most supreme fragrance comes from Tulasi. Tulasi is a very holy plant. Basil, the Indian basil, is extremely holy. It is known for many healing properties, even at a physical level, and it is very spiritually uplifting. So, basil, the Indian basil, which is Tulasi, is highly dear to the Supreme Being, and it is offered as part of worship in all temples for Krishna or for Narayana. So, this Tulasi is glorified too as essential to this realm, and the realm is crowded with aerial cars with people who are going back and forth glorifying the Supreme Being Sri Hari, who cannot be reached through any yoga or penance but by simply loving surrender, unconditional loving surrender. And it is said that Sri, his consort Lakshmi, is serving him all the time, and there is tulasi leaves with which she serves him. And then this realm, which is so wonderful, it's described that nobody can attain this realm who are indulging in undesirable talks and who are losing their capability to reason. So it's a very beautiful explanation that it is not through blind faith but through correct reason that we recognize the Supreme Being. We don't have to blindly believe, but if we truly inquire and correctly reason, we find that every single thing that happens only due to His intelligence. There is one intelligence that pervades every atom of this universe, and therefore there is no such thing as a separate individual possessing any intelligence. It's all an expression of the same one force, one being. So, by recognizing this with reason and not indulging in undesirable talks on topics which are unrelated to the Supreme Being, simply worldly gossip and so on, by indulging in all this, one cannot attain this realm. If one listens to undesirable talks, one loses the capability to reason, one engages in talks that are other than the greatness of the Supreme Being, then these talks rob the men of their merit and they push them away from this realm. So, it is a beautiful way to again point out that it is important to purify our speech and all our faculties by recognizing that everything happens only through the divine intelligence. And if we instead engage in the false idea of individuality and therefore indulge in talking about various individuals and their so called activities and gossip about it and so on, we will lose the ability to recognize Him. And that's what is meant when it said they cannot attain to this realm by these kinds of talks. And therefore, it is said that they who do not offer worship to the Supreme Being, even after attaining this rare human birth, they are not capable of entering this realm because they are wasting the precious human birth, which is meant to acquire the supreme knowledge. On the other hand, they say that only those can attain this realm who have completely surrendered themselves, and therefore their character is spotless, and most importantly, their heart is filled with love. They have tears flowing in their eyes and thrill in their whole being when they simply talk about the glories of the Lord. Just listening to the stories of the Supreme Being, just talking about the pastimes and talking about the various activities and talking about His teachings and talking about the essential oneness of the whole universe makes them so absorbed and full of heart melting tears. Such people alone can attain this realm, is what it is said. So, in this beautiful realm, which is described so poetically and also so profoundly, enter the four sages, Sanaka and his brothers, and they are very delighted to enter this, and they go through the various entrances. And then it is said that when they reach the seventh entrance, they are stopped by two famous um, doorkeepers. They are called Jaya and Vijaya. Jaya and Vijaya are also of the same form as the Supreme Being, and they are kept as doorkeepers, and yet they, though they look like him and they have the same dress and the same kinds of flowers and the garlands and everything, they are somehow bewildered to not recognize the greatness of these four young sages, and so they stop him. So here it can be seen as a symbolism that those who, because these two are doorkeepers of the Supreme Being's realm, so those who take to themselves the position of being the protector of religion, they in reality get caught up in their ego and they do not recognize the truly spiritual beings because they are caught up in the idea of religion, in the identity of religion, and then in assigning themselves as the protector of religion. So, this can be seen as a symbolism of these two doorkeepers who are there to guard the realm, as it were, and thereby filled with pride and stopping the truly enlightened four sages from entering. And when this happens, the four boy sages who are stopped from entering, they of course do not deserve that treatment at all because they are the most qualified to enter this realm, and therefore they speak addressing these two doorkeepers by saying that of those who attain to and dwell in this realm, how is it that you two alone do not have the qualities of even mindedness? Because when one is in this realm of the Supreme Being, one is able to be even minded, be free of pride, and be able to see who is the truly devoted, surrendered being that comes there, but somehow they have been unable to do so because they developed some ego there as the self assigned protector of the or the doorkeeper of the realm. And therefore, the four sages address them by saying that the inhabitants of this realm normally do not perceive any distinction with the Lord. They give a beautiful simile. They say, just as the space in a jar considers itself one with the infinite space, it does not ever consider itself to be separate, because the space inside a jar and the space in the vast open skies are one and the same. And similarly, they say that the enlightened beings of the realm of the Supreme Being, they, even if they have a form, do not consider themselves to be separate, but they ever consider themselves to be one. But what has happened to you too, because you are seeing this diversity? So this is the essential point, is that instead of seeing the unity or the oneness of all that there is, they saw diversity. And by seeing diversity, they got arrogant and they stopped the four young sagely boys from entering. So the four sagely boys, in order to make them learn a lesson, they give them this punishment that you have to leave this realm and go to the realm where people are caught in diversity, because they are not fit to be in this realm of the Supreme Being, in the realm of true religion, when they are caught in identity and therefore in seeing diversity. So they are asked to leave this realm and go to the realm of worldly men who always dwell in diversity. So this is again a way of saying that one who is caught up in this idea of religious identity and protecting religion and all the rest, it's very easy for them to lose sight of the true purpose of religion and thereby fall prey to arrogance and ego, which is the very opposite of religion. So when they hear this utterance, this punishment rather is given by the sages to the two doorkeepers, Jaya and Vijaya, they finally come to their senses, and then they fall at the feet of these four young boys, recognizing now the greatness of these four boys. And they say that, oh, you have indeed given us a punishment which we fully deserve, because we committed a great offense by stopping you four highly enlightened beings from entering the realm of the Supreme Being. Therefore, we truly deserve this punishment, but we have only one request to you, which is, please make sure that when we leave this realm and fall into the realm of worldly men, we do not fall prey to the complete forgetfulness of the Supreme Being. So they have at least the sense that the only thing that brought them there is the dedication to the Supreme Being, and therefore they want to come back here, and that's only possible if they are devoted to the Supreme Being. So they ask that even when they fall from this realm into the realm of the worldly men, that they do not they do not fall prey to forgetfulness of the Supreme Being. And it is said that when they were making this request, the Supreme Being himself appeared there, because by this time the Supreme Being, the Lord Vasudeva, comes to know of the offense committed by his own doorkeepers to the great sages, the four sages, and therefore he comes to the very entrance where they are stopped. And seeing him, the sages are, of course, highly pleased. They see the Supreme Lord, and he is again described, the very form of the Lord is described so beautifully, wearing silk clothes and having beautiful eyes and beautiful lips and lotus like feet, and having Lakshmi in his heart, and with yellow cloth, and with wearing a garland of forest flowers, Vanamala, and wrists with bracelets, and all the beautiful ornaments that are adding glory to the divine form of the Supreme Being. And seeing this supreme form that has been assumed, it is said, this form is assumed for the sake of pleasing all the beings, including Brahma and Shiva and all the Devatas, this wonderful form which is got the tulasi leaves also, as we already mentioned. Seeing this, their heart's desire is fulfilled, the heart's desire of the four young sages, and they address the Supreme Lord with great love, and they say, O Supreme Being, O Infinite Lord, you have appeared before us now, and this is the greatest blessing we can get, because you are hidden from the view of anyone who's got any evil in their heart or any darkness in their heart. And we know about you because we have heard about you from our father, because their father is Brahma, and Brahma was given the direct teaching by Bhagavan. So they say that we know about you, but now we see you, your form that our father was also fortunate to see, and we see that your form is full of pure goodness, and it is the highest embodiment of the essence of all truth, the truth that is completely free from any kind of egotism and can be only realized by sages who are completely purified in their heart through complete, total, unconditional surrender. And therefore, they address the Lord by saying, O Lord, your glories are worth recounting. And by simply listening to your stories and talking about them, people are able to free themselves from the false snare of I and mine and be able to recognize you. And therefore, we want to only see this form of yours. And remember, no matter where we go, it doesn't matter which realm we go after here, but the only prayer we have is we do not ever lose sight of this beautiful form in our heart, and we always remember you and fill our ears with stories about you. O Supreme Being, our eyes have derived excessive and unsurpassed joy, and therefore we offer obeisance unto you again and again. So, with this chapter ends again on a very auspicious note, as we can see. Even though it had a punishment given to Jaya and Vijaya, the chapter, as always in Bhagavatam, every chapter ends on an auspicious note. It ends with the Supreme Being himself appearing at the doorway, at the entrance, as it were, of his realm. And the sages, now the four sages, have completely ignored whatever Jaya and Vijaya did, and they are so ecstatic and they glorify rapturously the Supreme Being who has appeared in person in front of them. With this chapter ends. Now, what happens to the two doorkeepers, Jaya and Vijaya, and how that relates to the two demons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, who are conceived by Diti. This link will be revealed in the next chapter, and from then on, the story of Hiranyaksha will unfold. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.